Hi everybody, my name is Pete Burbinich. I'm the zoo curator here at Miller Park Zoo. Today with me we have Keeper Grace and Eric behind the camera over here. And we are in with our American alligators. These guys are fresh out of their winter session, and we're gonna start getting back into doing some training and feeding with them. This is gonna be the second time they've eaten since last year. Being reptiles, they can go several months or almost a year without actually having to eat anything. But as you can tell, she is still in excellent physical condition. Alligators store the majority of their fat in their tail, so you can always tell how healthy they are by how thick their tail is. And she is looking really, really good. She's already come out of the water in an attempt to sun herself. Our male alligator, Wally, is still over here in the water. We're going to be working with the female first. I'm going to try to get her to come over and just take some food from me. And then we're going to see if we can get Wally to come out of the water and take some food as well. Last year, if you guys had seen any of our alligator training sessions, they were trained to come up out of the water and station on these logs. Today, this is more of just a refresher. They haven't done this in quite a long time, so I just want them to get used to seeing us as a food source again. And as I'm feeding, I'm going to be paying more attention to the alligator than I am with the camera. They do have lots of sharp teeth and a very strong bite, so I want to make sure that my hands stay nice and clear. Today, for food, they are getting nice pieces of chicken as well as some meatballs. So they are strictly carnivorous. Out in the wild, they'll eat anything from fish to birds to larger and small mammals, raccoons, even small deer. Even other alligators. So anything that they come across is food to them. So I can see Wally's moving over here already. Let's see what we can do with the female. Come here, sweetie. Hey. Come here. Come on, honey. You want some food? So she's kind of moving away from me now. You can hear that hissing sound. That's just kind of a warning. But I want to get her to come over here without going in the water. Hi. You open? Can I get an open? No? Hi. Oh, it's a good girl. Come on. There you go. All right, open. Open. Come on. Come on. Come on. So I'm trying to get her to open her mouth for me. Obviously, I don't want to stick my hand too close in there. As you can see, she's got lots of nice sharp teeth. Alligators do have 82 teeth inside their mouths. They're shaped in a broad U-shaped pattern, whereas crocodiles have 66 teeth in their mouths, and they have a much more long and narrow snout. Alligators are a lot calmer, and as you can see, what I'm doing here with the end of the stick is I'm just rubbing the top of her head to see if I can get her to open her mouth. It's not an aggressive move at all. I'm just trying to get her to open up for me. There you go. Oh, we missed. She's not giving me a big target. Come on, sweetie. Come on. Come on. Open. 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 There we go. There we go. So we'll get her one piece there. And when she's ready, she's going to pop her head back and swallow it. There she goes. As you can see, alligators don't chew their food. They swallow everything whole, bones and all. They're very efficient digesters, so everything they eat pretty much is used. Here in captivity, we try to vary their diet up. Chicken is great because it's high in calcium, so especially for females that will produce eggs later on in the year, it's good that they have a nice high calcium count. Let's see if she remembers now. Come here, sweetness. Hey, want another one? Want another one? Come on. Open, open, open. Whoops. And that's me missing. Oh, almost. I'll open it up. Come on. Open, open. She's not opening her mouth quite wide enough for me to throw everything in there. Now it is still a little chilly for them, even though it's supposed to be in the 70s today. We do keep the pool heated, but it's still nice and balmy 60 degrees. Being reptiles, they are cold-blooded, so the warmer it is, the more active they're going to be. That's why she's out of the water right now. She's trying to get some sun But as you can see, our entire exhibit is covered in shade, and that's mainly for our male alligator. Because he's on the other side there. He's an albino, and they can't be in direct sunlight. They will get sunburned. But they do move along. You want some? All right, she's moving towards the water, so we're going to give her a break. We'll see if we can get Wally to come on over. Wally! Come here, bud. Come here. And look at that speed. He's floating backwards. So while Grace is trying to call Wally out, I'll tell you a little bit about our alligators. They're both American alligators. There's two types of alligators in the world, American alligators and Chinese alligators. They are adults. Wally is probably a little bit over 10.5 feet long, and they're about 13 years old. Sally over there is a full-grown female. She's probably close to 7.5, 8 feet long, and she's also around 13, 14 years old. In the wild, when alligators are hatched, they're only about 5 or 6 inches long, actually a lot smaller than that, but they grow about a foot a year until they're about 8 feet long. Females then stop growing. Female alligators do not get any bigger than pretty much what she is now. Male alligators continue to grow until the day they die. It's just at a much, much slower rate once they hit that 8-foot mark. So he, right now, is a little bit over 10 feet. The world record length for an American alligator ever caught was 19 feet 2 inches. Generally, you're only going to see him around 14, 15 feet though, but he still has several decades of life left, a lot of growing to do, and here in captivity with such a good diet, the sky's the limit for him, but we'll see what we can get out of him now. Now, if you guys have noticed, he is a white alligator. The albino and white trait is fairly common. The only problem is out in the wild, they have no camouflage, so they would not survive the first few weeks after they're hatched. But here in captivity, he's able to thrive. He's still learning how to really swim in this deep pool again. During the winter, we had to hold him off display because we had to take our tarp down due to the snow. His pool in the back is big enough for him to get into, submerge and everything else, but his main pool out here, he's still learning how to use his swim bladder appropriately. He's not too interested in food right now, and as I said before, they haven't really eaten in a few months, but they're still nice and healthy. I'm not really concerned. Once the weather starts to really get a lot warmer, I was hoping with the 70s today, they'd be a little more ready to go, but not quite yet. But yeah, you guys have any questions about alligators or anything we're doing?
Yeah, we got a couple of good questions. Suzanne wants to know how often we feed them.
So during the summer months, I'd say from about now until October, we'll feed them 3 to 4 times a week. The amount of food will increase. Right now we're getting about 1.25 pounds per alligator of diet. We'll up it to 2.5 to almost 3 pounds during the summer months. That way they can get their reserves built up so they can go to those long winter months without eating.
Donna wants to know what happens to the bones that they eat.
They digest them. Everything that an alligator swallows is digested and used. They are extremely efficient eaters.
Okay. Penny saw us feeding the female and the piece that missed. Mm-hmm. Is she going to go back later and eat that piece off the ground?
Sometimes they do, but we'll probably just grab it out so that way bugs don't get into it and everything else. Alligators will eat anything, even if it's rotten, even if it's been out for a long time. It's actually easier for them to rip off when it's like that. But here in captivity, there's no need. We feed fresh, so we'll just go and pick it up.
That question go. Grace's mom was wondering if we expect them to mate and if we want them to mate.
Yes and yes. So this is about the time of year down south that alligators have really started their mating season. Where they're normally found in Florida and parts upwards into North Carolina, as far west as parts of Texas, they start their breeding season at the end of the Florida winter, which is very, very short, and usually starts around mid-March. The temperature change will spur the males to start doing something we call bellowing. It's a really deep guttural call that they do to attract females. He hasn't done that quite yet. He's only been out in this pool for about a week now. He may be doing it overnight. We don't know. We did hear it last year, much later in the season than normal. But we are hoping to see that. He'll also, when he's ready to mate with her, they'll swim up next to each other. He'll blow bubbles at her. He'll slap his tail in the water, slap his mouth in the water. But that real guttural bellowing is what we were really looking for. After they have mated, she will start to collect leaf material and litter. You can kind of see where she had a nest built last year over here. We'll put some mulch in here. We'll throw some sticks and leaves, and she'll build a big mound where then she'll dig a hole into it, lay her eggs, and cover them up. And she'll be a really good mom. She'll keep track of those eggs. She'll guard them. She did lay, I believe it was about 40 eggs last year. However, none of them were fertile. We did check. That was the first time these two have ever mated. We'll see what happens again this year.
Okay. Lori was wondering, she's looked at the pool and noticed it was pretty dirty. She's wondering, is there a reason it's so dirty? And does we'll start with the actual, is there a reason the pool is so dirty?
It's actually, if you look at the water, the leaf litter and everything else in there, it's actually really nice and natural. It provides good hides for them. Just something to have. The water is nice and clean. To really clean this pool, it would involve us having to drain the water out. And with the colder temperatures, the water is heated, so we just want to let them have it, and we don't want to take that away from them for too long. I am fine with this pool looking exactly like it is right now. It actually looks really good.
Good for alligators.
It's great for alligators. We'll give it a good cleaning once or twice over the summer, and if the algae starts to really bloom and cloudy it up, then we'll definitely get in there with it. But this is good alligator water.
Lori also wants to know, with the dirt and the sand surrounding the pool, does it get super hot? And do we have to plant grass to protect their undersides?
So not at all, especially since it's under shade. As you can see, there's not a whole lot. But even if it was full sun, reptiles love this type of stuff. It actually provides a secondary, almost type of lower heat source aside from getting in there. They are smart animals. If they get too warm, they will go into the water. If they get too cold, they get out of the water. We did have grass planted along the sides over here. This entire area was grassed up. And then when she built her nest last year, she ripped all of that grass. I mean, this entire swath was covered in grass, and she took all of it out. So,
thanks for the nesting material.
It was just good decaying nesting material for her. So we'll put some seed down in here, but we'll leave the beach area sand.
Let's see. Jackson, who's 7, wants to know how old they are.
They're about 13 and 14 years old, so still very, very young.
Okay.
Bully!
Molly, you get them out.
JC wants to know, I think because they don't eat all winter, she said, are they kind of like bears in how they eat?
Yes and no. Bears do it more. They hibernate, and they know they're going into hibernation, so they really gorge themselves before they go into hibernation to build up their fat stores. Reptiles are a little different in the sense that they're opportunistic eaters. One good meal can last them an entire year without eating. But here in captivity, we just feed them constantly to make sure they build that fat store up. And that's one thing as zookeepers that we have to do is monitor their overhealth. You don't want an overweight alligator, just like you don't want an overweight bear or anything else. So the food we give them is just enough. It's enough to ensure their health and safety, and also to keep them going for those several months.
Charlie, who's 6, wants to know if they ever eat fish.
Oh yeah, we'll get in the wild. They do go after fish sometimes. Here in captivity, we do have fish that we will feed them every now and then. We mix their diet up. As long as it's meat, they love it. Look at them go.
JC also wants to know if they have babies, will we have to separate them from dad, and how do we do that?
So in the wild, dad is only involved for the mating, and then that's it. Mom is actually a really good mother. She will take care of the babies for an entire year after they're hatched. But here in captivity, what we'll end up doing is we actually will pull the eggs and incubate them ourselves. That way we can control the temperature, the humidity. We make sure they're developing at a good enough pace. We don't leave that to chance in here. If we did leave babies in here, There is a possibility that Dad would go after them and eat them. Chances are, though, they're so well fed and they know how to take food from us, they probably would leave them alone. But it's not something we'd want to risk.
Oliver wants to know how we give them enrichment.
So basically, we'll throw things into the pool for them, toys, bigger things they can't swallow or eat, or we'll enrich them out on the land, just different scents, different food items. The best enrichment for most reptiles is to almost just leave them alone. You know, they're dinosaurs in the sense that this is what they want to do. They're happy as a clam.
Monica wants to know if they stay out in the rain or if they go under the tarp.
They're outside year-round, so they actually love the rain. The rain is really nice.
Yeah, and the tarp is not waterproof, so
It does. The water does come through here.
let's see. Grace's mom wants to know, do they respond to verbal commands and prompts?
They do. So that popping noise that you hear Grace doing is something that we actually train them to respond to come out of the water. We are starting station training with them using commands. They are intelligent. They're not as intelligent as primates or some birds. It's more of primal intelligence, but they can learn their names. They can learn commands. They can learn hand signals. It's all repetition-based learning, but it is possible with them.
They recognize our voices. Too.
They do.
Let's see. Where did that question? That was a really good question that everybody wants to know their names.
So the male over there is Wally, and the female over here is Sally.
Zoom in on Sally a little bit more. How long do they live? Julie wants to know.
So in captivity, 60 plus years. So easily as long as people. Even longer now. The problem is we actually haven't had alligators in captivity really long enough to know their exact end of lifespan. I've worked with them for a long time, and I've had some adults that were wild caught. We knew they were wild caught from like the 1940s and 1950s, and they were still alive when I worked with them 15, 20 years ago. So 50, 60 years easy. And you know, in captivity where they have veterinary care, they have constant food source, they have a nice controlled environment, probably even longer than that.
Okay. Michaela wants to know how long they can hold their breath.
So during the winter time, when it's actually a lot colder and their heart rate slows, they can hold their breath for several hours. During the summer, when it's a lot warmer out, probably an hour or two without too much of an issue. And as long as they're not expending energy, if they're just laying in the pool and they just float down to the bottom, or sink down to the bottom, not float, and stay down there and just chill out, quite a while.
Let's see, here's two related questions from Stephanie and Beth. What are their favorite foods to eat? And then do we ever put live fish in the pool for them to eat?
So favorite food is anything that's meat-based. Anything that goes into their mouth is their favorite food at that moment. We do not put live fish into the pool. Being in captivity, they probably wouldn't even go for it. And then also we'd have to take care of the fish and clean them. So it's just easier not to.
Frankie wants to know if they are aggressive towards the zookeepers.
Not at all. Alligators are not an aggressive species. Crocodiles would be a little different. It is a little more dangerous because they don't have a fear of us. In the wild, alligators are naturally afraid of people and they run away. We have removed that fear. They see us as a source of food. We're around them all the time. So they're not going to come after us to try to eat us. But at the same time, they're not running away. And if we make a mistake and they grab onto us, they don't know that they're hurting us. That's food to them. So we have to still be very careful. That's why we carry these sticks, why we keep our distance from them. It's not to hurt them. It's mainly just to move them and poke them and move them into certain directions that we need them to go. And then as you saw when I was feeding the female, we use the white end of the stick to signify a food source. So I was trying to get her to open her mouth with this end of the stick here, so she recognizes the white as a open command, whereas the black is move. So they can recognize certain color patterns as well. Lauren
wants to know how fast they swim.
Very fast. I haven't clocked them in the water, but you are never going to outswim an alligator. If they want to move in the water, they are very, very quick. And even on land in short spurts, they're ambush predators. So anytime they're in the wild, they wait on the edge of beaches or lakes or whatever. They wait for an animal to come and grab a drink, something else. And they will leap out of the water, they grab it, pull it back into the water. You do not want to get grabbed by an alligator in the water. You're not coming out whole.
Liam, who's 5, wants to know, so how fast, we know they're ambushed, how fast do they move outside of water?
Pretty quick, very short spurts. They can get up and move their bodies. I don't have really a mile per hour. We've never clocked our alligators running outside, but it could be quick, and it's something we just want to keep an eye on.
Right. Their quickest move is their tail swipe, right?
Yeah, and when they're in the water, and that tail's down there, if they just give one good push, I mean, they can propel their entire body very, very quickly in one direction. It is insanely deceptive at how fast, if they really wanted to move, could be.
Right. Okay. Julie wants to know if they're colorblind, and I think Grace's mom was wondering if they see, everybody's wondering if they see color.
They do see color. It's not as sharp as others, but they can differentiate between color tones.
Let's see. Pam's wondering how we do veterinary care with them.
So it's a little more difficult. During the training last year, we were able to get them to come out of the water. We were actually able to do blood draws and everything with them while we were holding them and feeding them. If we ever had to do anything a little more in-depth, or if there were any issues that would require anything else, we would actually have to pull them out and restrain them. Basically, with most reptiles, you cover their eyes and they calm down. Same thing's true with alligators. We would take them out of the water, cover their eyes with something. We would secure their mouth, obviously. We don't want to have 82 teeth in play when you're working with them. But then it's basically just do what we have to do and then get them back out as quickly as possible.
Liam wants to know how closely related to crocodiles they are.
So they're in the same group of animals, crocodilians, but they're in different families. So alligators are in the family Alligatoridae, crocodiles are in Crocodilidae. They're really only similarities is the way they look.
Okay, let's see. Sorry if I'm missing your questions. We're getting a lot of super questions here. Where are their ears and can they hear in the water?
Yeah, so let me show you. So taking a look at an alligator's head, so you can see their eyes here. This flap of skin right here behind their ears, you see I'm lifting it up right now. That is an alligator ear. So they actually are able to seal their ears closed and go down to the water without getting water in their ears like we do. And they do talk to each other. You can hear the hissing, you can hear the popping that we do to get them to come over, and even baby alligators will call to each other. But yeah, they're fully capable.
And they can do that even underwater.
At a much muted tone. It'd obviously be like you holding your ears closed when you're underwater. You can still hear, it's just not as bright.
Let's see. Debbie wants to know how we put suntan lotion on the white one.
We don't anymore, now that we have the full tarp up. But about a year ago, we did have to, and you just, from a distance with a spray can.
He was very good at it. And
He was.
I think he grew to like it.
Let's see. Evie at 11 wants to know how long it takes for the eggs to hatch.
So it really depends on the temperature that they're being incubated at, but a little bit over 100 days.
And then, so how long does it take before mom lays the eggs? How long are they inside mom? And then can we do we do a sonogram to figure out how many there are, or?
No, there's no need to do sonograms. Alligator females are actually pretty, you can tell when they're starting to get pregnant because they will get a little rounder and they start building their nest in advance of laying their eggs. So there's no need to do sonograms or anything like that with them. You can tell if they're pregnant or not by behavior.
Okay. Ian wants to know where, I guess we'll talk about both of them. Were they both born in the wild or were they born in zoos?
They were both born in captivity.
Okay. And then let's talk a little. Can we talk a little bit more about albinism? Is that-
Albinoism?
Albinoism. Trying to figure out who was asking about it. Cademan, who's 8. Cademan was wondering like why he's white. So do you want to talk about that?
It's just a genetic skin trait. It's something that alligators can have, just like humans. You know, everyone comes in different skin colors and types, and alligators have that ability too. It is a lot rarer, only because, like I was saying before, alligators rely on their color for camouflage and in order to grow. When alligators are hatched, they're being hunted by everything out in the wild. Birds eat alligators, fish eat alligators, other alligators eat alligators. So when they're really small, they need the natural color pattern to kind of blend in with the reeds and the murky water for where they're found. As you can see, he stands out really, really brightly. So, you know, if you're in the wild and you don't have that ability to blend in, you're going to be one of the first ones to get picked off. So it is natural. It does happen out in the wild. It is probably more common than we know. The issue is obviously is just they don't get this large in the wild. There's also other drawbacks with albinoism in alligators. They are, you know, reptiles. They love to be in the sun. That's how they get their energy. That's how they charge. And as you can see right now, he's in the sun for a little bit, but we do have to keep the shade cloth up. He has to be covered the majority of his life, only because he can suffer really severe sunburns underneath his skin if he's out in the sun for too long. So this type of cover I'm not worried about, you know, but for the majority of the time too, they wouldn't survive. It's unfortunate, but that's just how it is.
Yeah, I think what year did somebody find that first albino? They found one, and then they were able to breed them
I don't remember.
in captivity.
Yeah.
So they're common in zoos, but not in the wild.
Correct.
All right, I think we're gonna have to cut this off. Looks like they're done eating, but I think Grace has one more thing to show us before we go.
Just a reminder that if you hit that donate button, there should be a donate button at the bottom of the live video for the Miller Park Zoological Society to help us continue to feed these guys and the rest of the animals here at the zoo. So this week, if you hit that donate button, we have a painting from our 3-banded armadillo named Amada that you saw in the live video last Wednesday. So if you hit that donate button, we will enter your name into a drawing to win Amada's painting.
Yeah, we already had 4 people donate during this video, so thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we will draw names next Sunday.
Awesome.
Sunday for that.
All right, join us tomorrow. It's Wednesday already, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then Shannon, I think, is going to have a fun friend for us to
Shannon's gonna
see.
have a friend tomorrow, so thanks